Good morning, gardening friends. Today is April 30th. It's a beautiful Sunday. Sunny. It rained last night, although not that much. We got less than a quarter of an inch, but I'm always thankful for whatever rains we get. And since it was raining, I decided I'd try a new recipe. Found it on the internet, and it came out absolutely to die for delicious. And it's basically an apple, what would you call it? A throw together thing. Basically, it's a can of the Poppin' Fresh Dough cinnamon rolls that you separate out and cut into quarters, throw them in a pan, and then get you a can of apple pie filling and throw it on top. Put it in the oven until it's done. Depends on the size of the pan. I used an 8 by 8 inch pan, and it took about 40 minutes. And the dough rose through the apples here and there. And then you, after it cools a little, you put the little icing packet, sprinkle it on the top, and there you have it. So this is next day, just as good as it was yesterday, and really easy to make. Ooh, as I get older, I like easy recipes. I don't worry that much about artificial ingredients because I take a lot of pills and medication, or I take a pill and some medication. So artificial chemicals don't worry me. Lots happened in the garden this week. I did a lot of work. Last week I didn't do that much. This week I did an awful lot. My roses are looking really fine. That's the best they've looked in a while. Oh, I have not turned on my fountains. Let me go ahead and turn on my fountains. Oh, Miss Mimi wants to come out. She just can't wait. My fountains are on a timer that's controlled by a push button. Mimi was out earlier this morning and had a run-in with Oscar, although Oscar is still recovering from a sore paw, and so he was more interested in food than he was in Mimi. But let's see, where was I? Gardening stuff. Roses are looking nice. By the way, I think I told you a couple of weeks ago I planted this lavender. I got it at Lowe's on sale. And what's the name of it? It is called Aromatico Blue Improved Lavender. And let me tell you, it is aromatic. Sitting here at the table, you can smell the lavender. I have one there, one in a pot there, and then I have 3 in a large pot in the front yard. They were selling it marked down to half price because I guess it was looking a little spindly looking for them. Don't know why, but whenever I see lavender on sale, I buy it. Everything here is doing pretty well. You can see the slugs somehow are getting to this white angel's trumpet. I've never had a lot of luck growing the brugmansias in pots. They'll be a beautiful plant, but I think they must be really heavy feeders, so I'm going to try and feed the heck out of this year and see if it'll bloom. They usually form a beautiful plant, but they don't always bloom. You can see my banana tree is coming along nicely. Miss Mimi is pointing out there's a new pot in her way. I had moved one of these spring flower things, and you can see the slugs are even getting at these. Supposedly these will last, but I haven't had luck with them. My dill died out, so I seeded more. This pot that looks kind of spindly is my grape hyacinths, and it's going to look kind of just bare all summer long. I'll probably find a spot for it somewhere next to my garage where I don't have to look at it. It's done its thing for the year. I'm debating on these chrysanthemums. This one, that's the problem when you have a pair of something. One will do really well, and the other one not so much. But they do have buds on them, so I'm going to let it at least bloom, and then I'll decide at that point if I want to put something else there or not. Other stuff going on the deck is I am seeing some life in my plumeria. And I don't plan on ever touching that plumeria. It's going to stay right where it is all summer long. If I do need to move it for cleaning purposes, I'll put a marking so I'll know which way faces which, because they do not like to be turned. I found in my experience they kind of grow the leaves for the exposure they've got. And even if you turn it like a quarter turn, leaves will start to drop. Here's my equisetum, and it looks like it has a flowering structure on it. I did put the caladiums back in the pot, and they're starting to come up. These violets are pretty much over. They seeded themselves, as in that pot as well. And in amongst the plumeria, I have some Johnny Jump Ups that seeded themselves from that spot. Oh, by the way, the little cuttings I took of the sedums are doing well. This side, not so much. For some reason, the birds like to perch on that little thing and peck out the dirt there. Miss Mimi's afraid of the birds because they're all over the backyard. This plant is still doing well, my Sarracenia. This is a scarlet bell. By now it's got seeds up in the seed pod. I may try harvesting some of those. There's my colocasia. I dug up, there was one little piece that came across the fence from my neighbor Sarah last year, and I planted it, and it has underground stolons, and it spread all over that flower bed. And let's see, I have 3 here, 4, I think I had about a dozen, not cuttings, but a dozen new plants from that one. Hold that in mind, I'll show you some more. Here's my clivia or clivia. I brought it out. I had it in for the winter. It was a seedling I bought, I think from Walmart, and this is its 2nd year. It's doing really well. It's split, and it's got 2 other plants on the side. And it is related to amaryllis, so I'm keeping it with the species amaryllis, hoping that it'll do well there. Well, Mimi's had enough. It's chilly today, and the birds are scaring her. There you can see the cyclamen, the last of the cyclamen blooms. I have decided I'm going to leave them there as long as there's green, because pretty much whatever I put there in this basket for the summer is just going to be green. It's not enough sun here for flowering plants. Here you can see one of the new pitchers on my pitcher plant. Still a lot of growth at the top. It seems to like this northern exposure. Oh, one's caught under the lip. It's actually wedged itself in under there. Okay, there we go. We didn't even leave the deck yet. There you can see the bananas are doing really well. The big thing that I did this week was I cleaned up my Canary Island date palm. Trying to figure out the best spot. I guess this is about it. Which looks a lot better. I just cut the dead off. I didn't try to shape it. It's got some odd stubs up there, but those were still green. So anything that was partially green, I just cut the dead off of it. I did find out I bought a saw on a stick from Lowe's this year. I did a little video on it, a quickie clip, and I love it. And I was playing around with it, and I didn't even realize it had a whole nother extension that I didn't know of or hadn't noticed. So I was able to actually get the top of those fronds, and actually it extends up high enough that I'll be able to use it for the next couple of years yet. So I was excited about that. So that palm is looking nice. Here's some more of the colocasia that, again, came over from my neighbor's fence. Here you can see the cycads in the deep shade here are starting to grow or send up new shoots. Spanish moss is still hanging on. That's all it's going to do. Here you can see the male cycad is sending up its cone. One thing to keep in mind with cycads when you get off winter kill or want to get rid of winter kill, I always wait until I see what they're going to produce. If I see any kind of a cone structure or a seed structure, I don't cut the leaves off, because the plant's going to spend all its time and energy on reproducing. And in the case of males like this, it won't send out any new green growth until after that cone forms. So really you're going to have a stub with a tall 3-foot cone on top of it. I mean, you're not going to kill the plant, it'll come back and the male will send up new green leaves. The female structure, however, won't send out leaves that entire year. So you're going to be looking at a stub for a while if you cut the leaves off of it. Over here, I didn't do an awful lot yet. I did shape up a little my loquats. See if I can show you this loquat tree. Not really, the sun's in the way. I was a little afraid for this loquat, this last one. Now that the construction has gone in at the road, I really rely on it for screening. And for some reason, this is the only loquat tree that dropped all of its leaves. So I'm still not certain it's going to come back, but it does look like it has some new shoots. So I remain hopeful that that tree will come back. They grow fairly fast, but it'll take probably 5 or 6 years for it to get that tall again. Probably more like 10 years. Here's another male cone. So I've got 2 males in the backyard of the cycads. And let's take a quick look out front. I'm about ready to cut these spiderworts down. They're both spiderworts, the purple as well as the blue. But you can see the bees really work these flowers over. Oh, and my bananas are coming back. You can see the speckled leaves back there. And there's another one coming up in there. They're not very tall. I got them, most of the plants I get are rejects that are marked down. And I wanted those bananas to grow a little taller, but they only ever get about 3 or 4 feet. Here you can see, ooh, a snail at work eating my lily. It's okay, that lily never blooms anyway, so the slug, not the slug, the snail can have it. There you can see I haven't weeded out the weed that's next to it there. And for some reason the slug prefers my lilies to that. My daylilies are still doing well over here. I do like that color, and I will encourage this bed to become all daylilies and some bulbs. That would be my goal. I'm going to clean up these pear trees. Maybe today, if not today, it'll be done this week. They were pollarded last fall, and you can see they're a tangled mess of branches. And you really do have to kind of thin those branches out, and a few pieces never sprouted, so any of the branches that don't have sprouts on them I'll cut out altogether. Ooh, you can see this Alstroemeria has grown all the way up to here to get to the sun. These are the weedy ones. However, they do bloom nicely once a year, and they're about to do that. So I'll probably wait till the aspidistras are finished blooming before we tackle the rest of the garage. My bay tree is leafing out nicely. The little sedum container is looking good. Ooh, I just saw I've got some flowers coming out on my hydrangeas. Ooh, a whole bunch. Last year I fertilized them and tried to take such good care of them, acidified them so they'd be nice and blue. These are Nico Blue is the name of them. And I only had one flower in the entire backyard, so already I've beat that if they make it. And remember those colocaceas I was telling you about that I planted one little one? Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. So I would not recommend planting a colocacia anywhere near your property. I mean, they're pretty when they're small like that, but they will get about 3 to 4 feet tall. I think what stopped them there is the sidewalk. I will grub them out because I don't want them here. This has now been dubbed my hellebore walk. If I feel real la-di-da, I'll call it my hellebore walk. I was watching YouTube yesterday, and a woman called a section of her backyard the hydrangea room. This is just my hellebore walk. Let's go around to the front. A little bit's been going on there too. Miss Mimi's not out, so I don't have to close the door. I cleaned up this little garden, shaped the azaleas. Here's yet another colocacia. That's the original one that I had dug up from Sarah's garden. And that's Sarah's garden on the other side of the fence. This holly, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It has not wilted. It looks like it's catching. I have tied it up again to the stake. This one you can see is getting new growth as well. So, 3rd year. This is 3 years here. I'm hoping to get 3 nice obelisks of holly. I'll keep my fingers crossed. I am going to spread some of this fern around. This fern I planted last year. It's Kimberly fern. It's the fern that you get in stores for hanging pots. I see a lot of people throwing it out in the spring because it doesn't look all that good. However, it will come back. And what started all of this was my neighbor had a Kimberly fern in a pot that she just laid on the ground in this spot. And somehow, I don't know whether from spores or roots, but it spread all through here. And so it comes back with a vengeance. So plant it carefully. Here you can see the other 3 lavenders. I did trim up this rosemary. I like to cook with rosemary. It's also a nice smell in the wintertime when you bring a bunch of rosemary in. My Australian tree fern is sending out more shoots, which is good. What are they called? I think I heard on Gardener's World they're called croziers. I would show you the base of it, but I don't want to touch the thing, and I didn't bring a stick. I am kind of allergic to it. It makes me itch. You can see the winter rye is passing. I'm going to have to reseed this. Here are my tomatoes. I probably need to tie them to the fence. They've got little dinky tomatoes. Of course, these are little dinky tomatoes, so they're not going to grow much bigger than that. Here you can see my butterfly bush it's about the right size. I like the size of that. and foxgloves. Foxgloves do have a medicinal use. Digitalis is used to moderate people's heart. The trick is it's also poisonous, so you have to know how much to take that's beneficial and how much will kill you. Oh, my old ladies are doing so much better. I pruned them up since they're not going to have any flowers or what do you call it, seeds this year. They sent up a lush growth of leaves, so I cut all the old off, and they look so much nicer. I also cleaned up the also cleaned up the century plants, variegated versions. I am watching my amaryllis with a vengeance, at least 2 or 3 times a day, because the nibbling grasshoppers love those. And I caught one on here yesterday. I don't see any on there right now. I'll take you a quick walk out by the street. Here you can see, by the way, I probably need to pinch this down, my cassia, because it's about ready. It'll grow just tall and floppy. And I don't want it to do that. I'd rather get a little bushier first. This is a weed. I don't do a lot of weeding, but that's something I have to weed out. Well, construction is going to be done in this section by the end of April. This is the 3rd week on this mega hole. They said they're going to put in another drain over here. Now that they've raised the level with the sidewalk, water has to go somewhere, so I'll be draining my street. You can see the trash that blows over from the neighboring grocery store. And they did make progress. I have a sidewalk. Yay! So I'm tickled that it is there. I still have to deal with the hole where there was a tree, but I'm not going to do anything until they finish the sidewalk over here. But so far, they haven't touched my lily on the corner. I haven't done any work to this bed because I don't know what damage, if any, will be sustained. You can see they messed up the ground a little bit. As far as I'm concerned, they can do no wrong because they got rid of the trees that I wanted them to get rid of and a telephone pole in the backyard. Oh my goodness me, I'm going to dig that out. That is a little gem magnolia coming out of the ground. Let me just check. I think it is. It's either a little gem magnolia or a cherry laurel, but cherry laurels have a medicinal scent to them. That has no medicinal scent, so I will dig that out and find a spot for that. Other than that, I did work in this garden. I did a lot of trimming against the back wall. Oh, there's a squirrel. I filled my bird feeder up. I did notice yesterday I worked for a couple of hours out here trimming the tops of my tea olives. I don't want them to get taller than that. I do want the nandinas to get a little taller. And then I like that central piece. That's a white Rose of Sharon, and it grows in a column shape. So I would like that to get as tall as it wants. I just want it to kind of be uniform at the top. So I pinched it here and there. I've decided, I had a revelation in this bed, since it is shady, even though those other trees have been removed. I've decided, since caladiums like it over here, rather than fighting annuals, because it's so shady, I am going to just load this bed in caladiums. What I'm going to have to do is take one of these leaves I don't want to get the same caladium that I had, but I want to do drifts of different color caladiums back in here and just let them fill out as they want to. So it's looking really nice. I've also decided in here I'll leave these white caladiums that I planted last year. I didn't plant a lot of them. And I thought what I would do there is, rather than spending my time planting other things, I'm just going to move and fill that entire bed with the wandering dude, Tradescantia or spiderwort, this purple stuff. Since it does so well over here, I figured the jolt of purple will do really well. Oh, I did notice I started telling you a story and then forgot about it. You'll hear the birds in the background. The squirrel, that's the only feeder I can have that's squirrel proof. It's all metal. Squirrels can't chew anything to get at the food there. I've gone through a half a dozen other style bird feeders, but I filled it yesterday. But while I was working out here, I noticed the little chickadees were coming to the bird feeder even while I'm here, because I chased the squirrels away. And I noticed I was working under it and the chickadees were like just going on the other side of the feeder, and I was like 6 inches from the bird feeder. So the little chickadees are the bravest. And then there were the house wrens. They were a little braver. They'd come like I am. And there's a visitor. And in any event, the birds that were the most skittish were cardinals. They'd like to try to chase the little squirrels like that out. So he's just biding his time, or her, because she knows eventually I'm going to go in. But I just thought the pecking order was kind of interesting. The littlest birds seem the most friendly to humans. But there you have it. It's been a great week for getting out and about, and I hope you all have done the same. Have a good day. Oh, let's get another parting shot of my Canary Island date palm. Take care for now. Bye-bye.